Welcome everyone to this second session of mobile communication and computing. In this session, we are going to study certain technical aspects used in the mobile communication. To begin with, we will first see the frequency spectrum used for wired communication as well as wireless communication. Now, spectrum means range of frequencies. So, which are the range of frequencies used for wired communication or wireless communication? As you can see in the diagram, signals with frequency as low as 300 Hz up to several terahertz can be used for wired or wireless communication. This huge frequency range is divided into smaller bands starting from very low frequency band up to extremely high frequency band. After extremely high frequency band, the naming convention changes to more specific terminology regarding their behavior like infrared band, then visible light spectrum or ultraviolet spectrum, UV rays, then X-rays and gamma rays. X-rays and gamma rays spectrum is not shown in this particular diagram. Each of these smaller frequency bands has associated application area with it. That means different application uses different frequency bands for communication. For example, submarines. Submarines use low frequency signals because low frequency signals can penetrate through the water. Then if you take example of radio stations, analog radio station use medium frequency range, whereas FM radio station use high frequency range. Then if you talk about TV stations, TV channels, they utilize very high frequency range and ultra high frequency range. Analog TV channels use a very high frequency range, whereas digital TV channels use ultra high frequency range. Digital audio broadcasting can also be done in the ultra high frequency range. Then if you talk about satellite communication applications use super high frequency and extra high frequency range. Beyond that, whatever frequencies are available, they are not useful for long distance communication because beyond extremely high frequency, signals can be absorbed by the atmospheric layers. The presence of ozone layer, ionosphere above the Earth's surface absorbs the signal beyond the extremely high frequency range. So signals having frequency larger than extremely high frequency range are utilized for point-to-point communication. And such signals are not mentioned in terms of their frequency. Rather, they are mentioned in terms of their wavelength. As you can see, frequency and wavelength are interrelated by formula lambda equal to c by f, where c is a speed of light, lambda is a wavelength, and f is a frequency. Now, since their wavelength is so small, they are mentioned in terms of wavelength rather than frequency. So, this is the frequency spectrum used for wired and wireless communication. Now, as you can see, if you are choosing to deploy a particular application for wireless communication, then you have to transmit your signals in small frequency range. For example, if you want to deploy a TV station, then you can use super high frequency range or extra high frequency range. You cannot use medium frequency range or high frequency range. The reason being that high frequency has different properties or advantages compared to lower frequencies. So each application area has a limited frequency range available to it. And that's why there needs to be some regulation which will be followed by the entire world in order to avoid the interference from other applications. For example, if TV station signals are interfered with the mobile communication signals, we may see mobile conversation on the TV stations as well, and we don't want that to happen. So that's why there needs to be a central authority which will regulate the spectrum allocated for particular application area. So who is controlling that? The International Telecommunication Union, ITU, which is located in Geneva, regulates or coordinates these telecommunication activities. Which frequency should be allocated to which application, that is decided by ITU. Even within the particular application area, different vendors or different users of that application will use different frequencies. For example, in case of TV channels, Zee TV will be broadcasted on particular frequency, Sony TV may be broadcasted on some other frequency. Okay, or in case of mobile communication, service providers such as Reliance will be transmitting signals on a particular frequency, and service providers such as Airtel or Vodafone may be transmitting on certain other frequency station. Or in terms of technology, if we have to talk, GSM subscribers will use particular frequency range, whereas CDMA subscribers may use different frequency range. So not only that, beyond the application area, different countries follow different frequency ranges. For example, India follows a different range for mobile communication, whereas America or USA follows different frequency range for mobile communication. So ITU has split the world into 3 regions: European countries, countries residing towards North Pole and South Pole, and Far Eastern countries like Japan, Australia, South Korea, New Zealand. These 3 regions have different frequency range available to them for communication of same application area. The following table, which will come in the next part of this particular session, will depict how same application is using different frequency range in a different geographical location. Like that. Like in this particular table, you can see 3 regions are shown. One is a Europe, second is a USA, and third is a Japan. If you take example of mobile communication, the technology used is GSM. As you can see, GSM in Europe is using frequency in the region of 900 megahertz. Here you can see frequency in the region of 900 megahertz, whereas GSM in USA is using frequency in the region of 1900 or 1800 megahertz. So technology is same, but frequency range used is different for same application, that is mobile communication. And this is decided by ITU to avoid interference for different countries as well as different application. Like that, in this table you can see different technologies are using different frequency spectrum. All these numbers are mentioned in the megahertz. Like cordless telephone is using 885 megahertz to 887 megahertz in Europe. PSCS is using 1930 to 1990 megahertz in USA, and so on. For Wi-Fi or wireless LAN, higher frequencies are utilized like 2.4 gigahertz or 5.1 gigahertz in USA and 2.4 gigahertz in Europe. So ITU has decided these frequency ranges for different countries and different application, and entire world has to follow these regulation. Now let's move to the basic part of mobile communication, that is signal. Signals are used for exchanging the information. In the wireless communication, media is free space. So our physical data is transmitted in terms of signals. So what is signal? Signal is nothing but a representation of a data in electromagnetic format. These signals are function of time and location. In the diagram you can see one sinusoidal waveform is drawn, which has 3 basic parameters, which are parameters of signal. First one is amplitude, then there is a frequency, and one that is mentioned by phi is a phase. These are the three basic parameters which represent a signal. These signals are classified based on their nature, like continuous time or discrete time, or continuous value or discrete value. Continuous time and continuous value signals are analog signals, whereas discrete time and discrete value signals are digital signals. The understanding of this particular concept you might have studied in the DSIP subject. In general, all the signals can be summarized into a mathematical equation A sine 2 pi ft plus phi of t, where A is the amplitude of that signal, which is representing its height or power, f is representing the frequency of the signal, and phi is representing a phase of the signal. By phase we mean that its displacement from the original location. Here you can see original signal starts at particular location, and if it is shifted from its original location, then there is a displacement between shifted version and original version. That displacement is nothing but pure phase shift, which is denoted by phi. Then to transmit these signals you need certain device, like converting our physical data into a signal and converting a physical signal into a electromagnetic wave. You need a certain device. That device is nothing but antenna. Antennas couple electromagnetic energy, that is signal, from a wire to space in terms of transmission, and in case of reception, antennas convert electromagnetic energy from space to wire. So antennas are most important as part of the mobile communication system. These antennas are of several types. The most basic type is isotropic radiator. Isotropic means it radiates electromagnetic energy equally in all directions. So isotropic radiator antenna can radiate signal equally in all directions, x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. In all three dimensions it can transmit the energy equally. But such antenna is only a theoretical reference antenna. Such antenna do not exist in reality. In reality, antennas are always having a directive effects. That means they can transmit energy only in particular direction, like vertical direction or horizontal direction. The intensity of this radiation is not also equal in all directions. Like in vertical it may be radiating with higher intensity, and in horizontal it may not be radiating with the same intensity. So these patterns of intensity of radiation are called as radiation patterns. On your screen you can see the ideal isotropic radiation pattern. As the definition suggests, it radiates energy equally in all directions, x, y and z, all three directions. Then what type of antennas are used in the real life? The simple antennas which can be used for wireless communication are dipoles. Dipoles, as the name suggests, has two poles. The length of these antennas are dependent on frequency they are trying to transmit or receive. For example, dipole with length lambda by 4 or dipole with length lambda by 2, known as Hertzian dipole. These antenna transmit or receive only specific frequency. A signal with a frequency f and lambda, wavelength lambda, can use this particular antenna. So if you are given a particular antenna, you can calculate what kind of signal it can transmit. The radiation pattern of this such dipoles are also shown. The top view, which is the rightmost diagram on your screen, this is the top view of a radiation pattern of simple dipole. If you look at from the sky, it shows how radiation pattern of a dipole will look like. The YZ view of the or side view of the radiation pattern of dipole is actually a front view. If you look at from the front, the radiation pattern will look like this one, and if you look at the radiation pattern from the side, it will look like this one. So from this you can see it is not radiating with equal power in all direction. These small circles are known as lobes, this one and this one. These are known as lobes. So each antenna has a particular lobe, transmission lobe associated with it. These dipoles are having this radiation pattern, and since its name is dipole, it has two lobes. Similar to dipole, there are further types of antennas used in the wireless communication like directed and sectorized antenna. Particularly in mobile communication, directed and sectorized antenna are used. In the first diagram, you can see radiation pattern for directed antenna. This is the top view, this is the front view, and this is the side view of the radiation pattern created by directed antenna. As the name suggests, it radiates energy only in particular direction. Hence its name is directed antenna. Then if isotropic radiator is not available practically, then how can we radiate energy equally in all direction? If we cannot do that, we try to reach closer to that particular radiation pattern. That can be achieved by sectorized antenna. Now in the diagram, there is a 3 sector antenna and 6 sector antenna radiation pattern is shown. This type of antenna radiate energy in terms of smaller lobes in a different sector. The 3 sector antenna radiates energy in 3 directions. Their lobes are shown as a circle, whereas 6 sector antenna radiate energy in the 6 directions. So their lobes are shown in a particular beams. So if you see, as the number of sectors increase, the shape of the radiation pattern become closer to the radiation pattern of the isotropic antenna. So these are the more practical antennas used for mobile communication. Apart from that, nowadays more advanced antennas are used, like we can combine 2 or more antennas to improve the reception for negating the effect of multipath propagation. Such antennas are known as multi-dimensional antenna or multi-element antenna array. Now what is multipath propagation, that we will see later on in this session or in the coming sessions. So in the diagram you can see multi-dimension antenna. Here 2 dipoles are combined together to create a multi-element antenna array. In this diagram, 3 antennas are combined together, each with length of lambda by 4 with and spacing of lambda by 2. In the second case, length of dipole is lambda by 2 and spacing is also lambda by 2. So because of this, we are able to negate the effects of multipath propagation, because when signals travel through the free space, they get degraded, and to avoid loss of data in such situations, we use combination of such antennas. Then more advanced solution is a smart antenna. When such multi-element antenna arrays are connected to a digital signal processing unit which can recognize the environmental conditions and improve the reception, then these antennas will be known as smart antennas. These antennas can adapt to changes in reception power, changes in transmission condition, and changes in many signal propagation effects. So that's why they are called as smart antennas. Apart from that, more advanced technology uses a MIMO antenna, that is multiple input multiple output antenna. In the actual diagram of a dipole, you might have seen here, there is a feed between the two poles of the antenna. This feed is used for providing electromagnetic energy. Now, in MIMO antennas, this feed is provided with multiple inputs, or this feed is receiving multiple outputs as well. So that's why they are called as multiple input, multiple output antennas. Use of several antennas at receiver and transmitter. This is particularly done to achieve the higher data rate using the same amount of power. Now let's not get in detail to that one. This is just an introduction of what are the different types of antenna. So in short, MIMO antennas can be used in case of high data transmission like Wi-Fi, LTE or high speed packet access. Okay. Now after this, in wired networks, we know that signal will travel along the particular direction because signal is carried by a physical medium called as conductor or wire. But in wireless network, there is no wire to determine the direction of propagation, and that's why it becomes important to define the range within which the signals can be propagated. So there are basic three ranges, as you can see. The innermost circle is known as transmission range. That means if sender is at the center of innermost circle, then and if it is transmitting the signals, then communication is possible only within the transmission range, because this is the range within which signals can be successfully detected and received. So transmission range is most useful range for communication. It has very low amount of errors involved in it. Then outer circle, which is denoted by this gray circle, is known as detection range. If sender is transmitting certain signals, within the detection range, those signals can be detected, but the contents of those signals cannot be retrieved. So communication is not possible. For example, let's say somebody is shouting up to certain distance that what he is saying can be heard, but after certain distance you can know that he is shouting, but what he is saying that cannot be understood. So communication is not possible in detection range. Then the outermost circle, which is interference range. In this range, neither detection of signal is possible nor communication is possible. In this particular range, signals become so weak as they travel the larger distance, they become so weak that we are not able to detect their presence. Rather, they get interfered or mixed with the atmospheric noises. That's why this is called as interference range. That's all for today. If you have any queries regarding today's topics, please reply in the comment section. In the next lecture, we will continue with the signal propagation and different parameters that affect the propagation of signals. Thank you.